So I got my 2 buckets here that are done, my 12, my 18. I got the trailer done, and I have the other bucket on the machine, the 30-inch grading. So last but not least for me is a thumb to grab things like your hand. So I have it kind of mocked up already. I'm going to mount a plate on the boom here because I don't want to weld directly to the boom, even though it feels pretty thick. I'm just going to weld a 3/8 plate down the front of the boom to give extra support, so nothing twists. So I did all the ergonomics of and measurements of the hydraulic cylinder, because I have, that's an in cylinder for the hydraulic cylinder, and that's the out for the hydraulic cylinder. And I have a 2-way pedal on this specific machine. It's the left foot for the pedal. You push this side to close it or open it, and then you push this side to do the opposite. So I'm going to match the cylinders that are already on the machine, and then get the same size bore, which this bore is 2.5 inches, and then the rod itself is 1.1 inches. So I found a 2-inch bore with a 1-inch rod. I want the thumb to be weaker than the bucket, so when you close the thumb and close the bucket at the same time, the bucket won't break or twist the thumb. And I also believe that there's a relief in the internally in the system, in the machine. The hydraulics to the thumb or whatever accessory you're using is the relief is set weaker, just for that specific reason. So the bucket will push the thumb closed, and it won't break or twist anything. It's about 98 degrees in the shop right now, no exaggeration. So I'm going to do all the mock-up today and draw it on a piece of paper and whatnot, and then I'm going to start building it when it cools down next week or so. So here is what I'm thinking for the thumb. This is 1/2-inch plate by 4. I'll probably make the thumb 4 inches. I've seen some designs that are 3 inches even, or 2 inches. But I'm going to cut it and angle it so it'll come up, across, and down, so that I can pick up like logs or whatever and not have a problem. So I'll weld this here, and then the cylinder, hydraulic cylinder, will probably mount probably about 1/3 from the boom, 1/3 of the distance. So I have a lot of rotation on the thumb, so I can bring it up out of the way while I'm digging, kind of at that angle, and then it'll fully extend to like almost straight down with the boom, so I can pick stuff up. So how a thumb is measured is, the instructions all over online say, measure when the bucket is at a 90-degree angle to the boom. So this is not perfect, but you get the idea. It's about 16 inches from the boom to edge of bucket. And all my buckets, I made the same arc here, so they should all be the same. So the boom is 3 1/8 wide, something like that. Up here, still the same, 3 1/8. So I'm going to make the piece that's going to be supporting on this to be 3 inches. So I'm going to cut this. It's a piece of 3/8 scrap metal. All right, so I got the 3/8 square flat stock cut, and I raised it good 3 inches from the bottom of the boom. You don't want this when you have the mounts for the thumb here and here. You don't want this to, when you fully scoop, to hit that. So I'm going to raise it probably a couple, an inch or two more. Some guys mount the top of the cylinder like all the way up here, and then they have to order like a 3-foot cylinder, which there might be a reason to that. I'm not sure, but I guess we'll find out because I haven't found one yet. Alright, so I cut 2 ears for the top of the cylinder, welded onto the boom, and I am just drilling a center hole. Then I can grind them both exactly the same. So I'll weld these onto here. The cylinder I'm looking at is 2 inches between them, so that's 2 and a little. Make a little bit of play. So I'm going to weld these on, just tack them, and then you can see the circle. I'm going to make them, cut them out after. Alright, so I put a couple washers underneath for just a little gap for better penetration, and I got about 2 and a 1/16 or so in between them, so the cylinder will fit nicely in between the 2 ears. I stuck a welding rod in there. That'll be the center of the eyelet of the cylinder. So now I can measure off this and have my cylinder length and for here, and how much stroke I need. Okay, I cut 2 more ears for the bottom where the thumb is going to attach to the boom. I'm going to clean these up and tack them on the bottom. I got these fitted up. I'm just going to tack them just like the other side. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. This will be a 1.25 inch piece of round bar tubing. This will be the same thing, holding the other side together. And then this is 16 inches long, and these are 1-inch teeth. I just put a speed square on a 45 and made teeth so I can grab like logs and stuff. So I'm gonna trace this on that these pieces a 1/2 inch over here, and then I'm going to cut it out. I think what we're going to have to do is make a straight piece here, and then a angled piece there, and then round it and make it look like one piece, and then weld it together. Okay, so these will be spread apart 8 inches, which is about right there to center, and it'll be wider than the boom, obviously, so it won't the thumb won't contact the boom. The only thing that would hit would be these pieces going across to hold the cylinder. So as long as that hits there, and the teeth, the thumb is way out of the way for digging, so I think that's perfect. All right, so here's a better demonstration of the thumb. So here's the middle of our cylinder at the top earpiece. And then here's our thumb. I made the pivot point on the thumb a third of the way of the length. So we have a mechanical advantage with the swing. So if you, to measure how long of a cylinder you need, I'm going to make this mark right here, this mark here, 16. That's how long the cylinder is retracted. So that'll be out of the way of when you're digging. Then the 16-inch cylinder has an 8-inch stroke. So if you come down here, 8 inches is 24 inches fully extended. So that'll be plenty to pick up whatever I need. So that's the cylinder I'm going to get and try first. Alright, so since I don't have a piece of 1/2 inch by 5 inches wide, would have been perfect, but this is 4, so I'm going to have to cut this part, turn this to make a nice bend, and then I'll weld the center, and then I'll gusset the crap out of it, so it'll be plenty strong enough. So I'll cut both of these out and draw holes, and then I can test it on the machine. All right, there you have it. They're all special in their own special way. So I'm going to flip it around. I got to cut it in half and make it rounded. All right, so here is the piece I mocked up with cardboard. And then I cut a V out of that, so I matched it up, and I love it. I'm going to cut the rest out to make it match the rest, and then try it on the machine. Alright, so I hit the corners with the grinder and made it nice and rounded, and I tacked so it doesn't spread apart, and then I split the two into their own piece, and then I'm going to draw a hole here for the for it to move and pivot, and then I'm going to do another hole here where the cylinder is going to be. Alright, so I have the center line, center mark for the support. I'm going to use a 1-inch pipe to support the shaft going through. Alright, so I cut the holes, and I cut, I'm going to have 8 inches spread apart on these teeth. So I cut that long for a pin to hold this pin in. So I'm going to tack that, and then I'm going to tack that onto that one. Alright, so I drilled another hole and put a support in here, It's starting to come together, I think, pretty well. That'll be holding the main pin. I'm gonna cut this here and here to have it for the support on the boom, and the 1-inch pin will go through there, and I'm gonna figure out where this pin goes. All right, so I drilled 2 1-inch holes. I tacked these perpendicular to the support in the that goes to the boom. These fit perfect. I cut this to the same width as the bar going across, and then I cut this to lock in the top of the hydraulic cylinder. So I'm going to drill a hole straight through, and that'll be a locking pin there. And then same thing on the other on the thumb. I'm going to drill a hole and then for a locking pin there. All right, so I got the mock-up hanging by a strap and clamped to the boom, and it seems to be working pretty well. It goes up and down real easily. I didn't make it super tight. So it'll probably end right there with the cylinder. 16 inches from here to probably around this mark I made, which is way out of the way for digging. And then I'm going to test it out tomorrow to see how much it closes. I get the cylinder tomorrow, so I don't know everything just yet, but it's coming out pretty well. All right, I got my cylinder in today. Very fast shipping. By a company called Rugged Made. And this thing's a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so I had a little mishap after about 2 hours. I had to, this is 2 3/4. I made the spacing on the top and the bottom of the spacers 2 inches. So I had to cut these ears off, move them to the sides of the plate, and then weld them back on. And I'm just gonna cut around here because it looks ugly. Cut around there to make it look good, and then the same with the bottom. But I think this is gonna be perfect. All right, so I got a brand new GoPro Hero 9 Black for an anniversary present, so that's good. And I hooked up the hydraulic lines. I'm testing them. I just have to tighten everything, and it was hard to find out exactly what this fitting was to the block, to the ball valve, but it's O-ring Boss fitting, and then I bushed that. That's British. I bushed that to pipe thread, and then got a coupler and ran the line to JIC fittings, which the hydraulic guy says it's more robust. All right, so here's what we're working with here. I got a piece of 3/16 steel plate that I'm gonna cut slots out for the cylinder and where it mounts to the boom. And this is going to just strengthen it up while not putting too much weight. I'm trying to keep it as light but as strong as possible. So that's how the cylinder arm will go here. And then I'm going to put a bending radius on this piece of 3/16 to it'll start here. I'm gonna weld it to that. It'll weld underneath here and then touch that, and then the whole thing won't rack. So I have it on the center line. I'm going to put a slight bend and then go on either side of the center line, and that should be good. All right, so I got the thumb welded and it is hot. I cut a groove for the cylinder, and this will be for here, and I stitched weld the whole bottom plate. All right, so that's how it'll look. I have the piece for the boom. I have to weld it on, and then I have to cut there and there with the grinder and make another pin and slide it through, and that's it. All right, so that's how it'll look. I got the pin in. I had full penetration on the pipe, so there was a bump on the inside making the pin not go in. So I just have a die grinder I stuck in there, went around a couple times and made it easy. But that is it. Now I just have to weld this to the boom and hook up the hydraulic lines. All right, so I have the bucket all the way curled, and now if I rest this on there, when I curl all the way, I'll lift it up about a quarter, half inch or so. Then when I curl all the way, I know I'm not going to hit the thumb with the bucket. All right, I fitted everything on the machine. That's how that'll go. And I'm going to weld it now. Call it done. Alrighty, so we have the whole thing welded. I stitch welded like 2 inches at a time. Welded the top and bottoms, and I just hope it works, because that would suck. Alright, so I got my adapter here is an O-ring Boss. Then pipe thread to 3/8, half to 3/8 pipe thread. And I have a quick coupler here, and then I have my line here that was made to 18 inches. So I have a couple JIC fittings. That's the flare. So I did 290s so I can tuck the line out of the way. So that'll kind of go like that. to keep it in tight to the boom so I don't hit it on anything. So I'm going to tighten this up and then do the next one. Alright, so this is what I'm going with. I got one hose that way that'll pull in and out, and then the top hose won't really flex because it'll pivot like a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to turn these two valves on here, one there and one's there, and then I'm going to turn the machine on and see what happens. On a Takeuchi TB016, and I'm sure many other excavators. Under the foot pedal that controls the hydraulics, there is a set screw and a lock nut. So right now this can only go one way. You can't go the other way, and that would be probably for a hydraulic hammer. So you undo that lock nut and drop this down, drop the bolt down, then you can have a two-way pedal. All right, here goes everything. It's starting to look like a real mini excavator. First time trying it. All right, it works perfectly. One little flaw is I just have to give that bottom joint a tighten. The hose hits the thumb. All right, so I got my LEDs on, so they're helping a lot. I got one on the boom and two on the top. I rerouted it. I just spun the 90, and it's got nice clearance, about an inch or so, and that's fully open. So I'm gonna try to pick something up. Probably end up breaking it. I don't feel like moving it off the trailer because in about 6 hours I got to drive to work, so then I'd have to hook it right back up to the trailer again. So let's try this log. All right. Now I just have to clean it and paint it, and I am done. I am very happy. I'm going to use a different bucket for that, but that was just for testing purposes.